introducing to the stage the co-directors of the film you just saw, Caylee So and Visal Sok.
Hi, thank you guys for being here. My production crew up on. Visal went to the bathroom because so he'll be here in a second. Oh, there he is. He's coming.
Hey, I was going to say something. He's overcoming emotion.
Yeah, he's overcoming the emotion. He said we made it.
Right. Do we have like one more chair here? Great. Here we go. Right. Okay, musical chairs. One down. Okay. So first and foremost of all, you guys, congratulations! It's such a really fantastic film. Before we get started, I know that you guys have like members of your production crew here. Take a couple of seconds and introduce yourself so that we can recognize you and have you guys join us in our conversation. Prach, why don't you go ahead and start? Yourselves.
My name is Prach. Actually, thank you for being here tonight. How many Cambodians here tonight? Suicide tonight, Happy New Year. My name is Prach. I am the co-producer of the film, or the producer of the film.
Hi, I'm Neardey. I'm the producer.
I'm Frank Martinez. I'm the editor of the film.
I'm Dane Styler, and I co-wrote with Caylee.
I'm Yu-Ting Su. I'm the sound advisor and recording mixer.
Hello. Hey, I'm Gavin Keese. I composed the musical score. Hello. I'm Visal. I'm the co-director with Caylee.
I'm Caylee So. I'm one of the co-director, co-writers, and co-producer of the film.
Congratulations once again. To get started, Caylee, I've known you for a while and have seen, your work ever since you were, making films at Chapman University. Visal, on the other hand, while I've not known you personally, I know that you have a background in doing comedies of all things, or at least as far as what your bio says and stuff. Maybe they're not, but so I wanted to find out first and foremost of all, how is it that you two came together to make this film?
Well, I guess I'll start that out. When we originally wrote the script, we wanted to do 3 chapters, 3 decades, 3 directors. And when we came up with the idea, I thought of Visal because he's a music producer. And so he was one of the leading directors in Cambodia at that time. So I pinged him on Facebook and I said, hey dude, I had this idea for this project. I was wondering if you wanted to direct one of the chapters. Which, the chapter I really saw him directing was chapter 1, which had a lot more romanticism, music, comedy in it. And so he said yes right away, and that's just kind of how it started.
Yeah, for the records, I did my first 2 movies with comedies, but comedy is not really my specialty. I just had to do comedies because comedy works in Cambodia. But I always wanted to do a horror film as my first film, but I couldn't do it. So yeah, she hit me up, and I said yes. I just said right away I wanted to be part of it, and here we are.
Now you said that the film is essentially divided up into chapters initially. Obviously, it no longer follows a straight linear path, and so there must have really been a lot done in terms of shaping everything so that there would be a focus and stuff. If you guys can talk about that process of imagining the film, and at what point did you realize that a traditional 3-part linear structure just wasn't going to work for this kind of story, and that you had to find a center? If you can talk a little bit about that.
You know, I'll have the editor kick off that one, and then I'll follow up.
Two microphones. Yeah, so we originally edited the movie. It was a linear story. It was chapter 1, chapter 2, and chapter 3, all in order. And upon doing some testing, we were close to locking, and eventually we did lock. And partway through the sound, it's probably Yu-Ting can tell you a little bit about this. She's probably annoyed, I can imagine. Caylee called me up and was like, "Hey, we need to change the film." And I was like, "Wait, what?" And keep in mind, this is like 2 months before my wedding, so I was just like far past this film. But I love this film, so I would do anything for it. And Caylee told me everything about it. I was like super psyched. I did all the changes, and I'm not gonna lie to you, I was not happy at first about it. I was just like, I don't think this works. I was against it, but that's where collaboration comes in. Neardey had an idea how to open the film, and that kind of changed my mind on how things started to change. And we started working the film and really started to think that the structure really worked with chapter 3, because everyone would get to chapter 3 and they'd be really fatigued, because chapter 2 really takes it out of you. It's really strong and emotional, and it's devastating. And I think then you have to follow around a third character that you haven't met the whole film. And so it was nice to just get on with her from the beginning and see her journey and see about her family. And at the end, you know, I feel like it all comes together, and I think that's what helps, you know, settle this movie together and really bring it together. Which, not telling a linear story, but actually just bringing in pieces and having it all connect at the end.
Yeah. I think that previously, you know, in an earlier iteration, you know, the linear structure basically, you know, brought in characters and then they kind of like disappeared and whatnot. And I really do think that in looking at this final cut, you know, that by centering the story around hope, that we were able to, you know, go back. You know, can see, you know, these different characters and how, you know, they fit into, you know, what became a person's journey, and, you know, what have you. Seeing it now, you know, do you feel, you know, that, you know, Caylee's decision to basically overhaul the film, you know, was the right one, or?
I mean, I was crying right now, so I'm not gonna lie. So I honestly, I'm very happy with it. I was definitely, like I said, I was against it, and once I started settling down, I really took a break away from it. It's hard. I see this film like 1,000 times, so it started hurting.
I was going to add something to that. You guys don't understand, me and him were locked in a room for like 2 whole years, like editing this film, and so when we made that last minute decision, we're like, Frank was like, "What?" Like, we locked the film, and I'm like, "It's okay, dude. Let's just try it." But yeah, there was a lot of nights of like going, like, is this film working? Yeah.
You know, Visal, you know, how do you feel about how the film works now?
Yeah, I think it works much better than I mean, my personal opinion is that it works better than dividing the whole thing in 3 chapters, and you watch chapter 1, 2, and 3, and then you go to the end and you reach Hope's story that takes place in 2007, and I think you kind of a bit disconnected to her story, and actually it's about her journey. So I think this version works better for me, because you start with her journey and you see the story happening in between what's going on in her journey, and then you connect the dots at the end when you kind of discover where she's going and who she's meeting and what's going on at the end. So yeah, I do prefer this version.
So I just want to add to that. Like, I still remember the moment that we kind of had the, you know, needed that change. And the good thing is, I don't know, a lot of you, I'm not from here, like LA, I live in DC, so a lot of the work I do as a producer is on the other side. I do a lot of, you know, with Caylee, but Caylee kind of has a obviously director, she's into everything. So when we made that decision, I knew, you know, it's a lot easier for me to go back and, you know, talk to Caylee. Caylee has to, you know, God bless her, to deal with stuff. Because I knew she came back and she said, "Oh my God, he's gonna kill me." But I'm on the other side, but, you know, it it was amazing. I think, you know, the changes made a huge difference.
Great, excellent. And I'm pretty sure that, you know, the restructuring of the film, you know, also had to influence, you know, the decisions with music and how, you know, it was going to, you know, basically, you know, help, you know, the new trajectory of the film. The other thing too is that, you know, the different ways of usages of the song that, you know, that is sung throughout, you know, the film and, you know, is, you know, done finally as an acoustic, you know, version at the end. It was very touching. If you can talk a little bit about, you know, how you were working with, you know, with the directors and producers in terms of, you know, just getting, you know, just the right notes and emotional, you know, points, and also how you were able to, like, effectively utilize that single song in different, you know, contexts, you know, mournful, sad, hopeful, you know, what have you.
Sure. Well, I mean, I'd actually never heard that song before I met Caylee. She introduced me to smooth music. And so, like, the very first time I heard it, I just knew, like, this has to be the main theme for the film. And that was going to be the way that we tied the score and the songs together. And it just worked right from the start. I felt like there's just a lot of emotion in that music and in that melody. So that's actually the first thing that you hear and the last thing you hear in the film, in addition to the songs. As far as making it work, especially when we, you know, restructured the whole film, originally the second chapter was no music at all. Caylee's idea was to have it just be completely stark, and the only music you hear in the second chapter would finally be when, you know, he sings the song right before he dies. And it was very, very powerful, I thought, like just having so much silence and then really just feeling just this incredible emotional release when you finally hear him sing. We actually ended up using the music in a few different spots, both in the original cut and the restructured cut. And it worked a little better. We realized there was all these hidden moments with the characters that, you know, even though their culture is suppressed, and even though, you know, all the emotions are being hidden and everybody is, you know, trying not to say what they're thinking or feeling, the music could really bring out a lot of that to the surface when, you know, the characters are meeting in secret, and there's really this deep undercurrent of emotion going on. So.
Can I add something to that real quick about speaking of songs? If you know the song Chapa Bat the Ball, Chapa means flower, so it's like a flower about the ball, so it's like a love letter, but he's speaking to a lover in Bat the Ball. So that's why we're on stage and we have the flowers, so it represents the flower about the ball. So some people's like, hey, did you just come back from a wedding or something? We're representing Chapa Bat the Ball.
The other thing that I wanted to get back to is, you know, the idea of perspective and gaze, and I think that one of the ways in which that multiple perspectives are articulated is in your decision, you know, of how to frame, you know, each part of the film, you know, based on, you know, who is, you know, doing the gazing, who is doing the, you know, the storytelling. From, you know, from Hope's viewpoint, you know, largely from a video camera that basically has this, you know, 4:3, you know, wide, you know, a very square look, you know, to the Pol Pot years that, you know, looks like something that could have been shot on 16mm film is also square, to some of your other shots that are more contemporary that, as a result, have either an HD or a CinemaScope, you know, orientation. And I wanted to find out, you know, what influenced your decisions, you know, to articulate perspective of each of your characters and situations by the use of your cinematography decisions, and why, you know, the film resulted, you know, in what seemed at first to be like a mishmash of different film aspect ratios.
Yeah, that was actually, you know, we talked about that during pre-production, Visal and I, and especially David. David's not here today, but he did a wonderful job. And when I wrote the script and when I thought about seeing this movie visually, and because I thought of it as 3 different chapters, I thought we needed to do something on a visual level that conveyed each of the story and captured it in the way that I thought it should be captured. In chapter 1, we did a 1:8:5 ratio because I felt like that world felt like more hopeful and fun, and And I also talked to Visal about what does he think about, like, you know, keeping the camera locked down, never using handheld, making sure that it felt like, you know, like a song or music. You know, it was a little lighter, the world felt bigger and more open and hopeful. And then in chapter 2, we chose to do 4-3 because we felt like everybody was living in a box, you know. And so for me, I always saw that chapter as being a bunch of people trying to survive it, living in a box. And we did the same thing with the color palette, kind of like had washed out colors. And in chapter 3, which is Hope's journey, I always saw it as, you know, 2-4-0 because it was like this journey of this character who had to discover, you know, this new place, this, you know, like the stories that she knew about. So I felt like it was a journey, so everything was ahead of her, more wider, more spatial. And so we talked about doing it handheld because it was of a different era, and there was the digital age, so she had that digital camera. So that entire chapter was, you know, shot without locking the camera down. It was always on the cinematographer's shoulders, while the other chapters were always on a dolly or on a tripod or something like that. So we always talked about that as a visual way of telling the story, and, you know, lyrically to go along with the plots.
I think that for me, that the payoff of the film actually comes in the final scene when we hear the acoustic version of the song as played and sung by Hope. We finally get to the audience's gaze, and we come back to that hopefulness, a sense of there being like a circle, you know, coming together and whatnot. And so it kind of gets back to that, you know, sense of hope in the beginning and what have you. And I thought that was, you know, a very emotional, very ingenious way, you know, to end it. So I had to like give it up to you guys for, you know, for completing that circle, as it were. You know, very good job.
Thank you so much.
You know, it's getting late, and there's another show going on, but, you know, because here at the festival, you know, we always treat everything as engagement. You know, the audience is the one that will tell the artist, you know, what they think of the film. We have time for maybe like 2 or 3 questions, you know, before I have to wrap it up. So if anybody has any thoughts or comments or observations that they would like to share about the film, don't be shy, raise your hands high so I can see them. Why don't you go ahead and start us off? Any other thoughts or comments or questions? I see one right there in the back. You.
Hi, thank you for putting together this film. It's beautiful. Cambodia American, I think it's amazing. What are your plans next for distribution of this film? Is this something that, you know, we can expect to see on film circuits, or is it something that we can start telling friends about, maybe on Netflix in a couple months or something like that? How can we help kind of build further?
Yeah, absolutely. Right now we're doing festival runs, and then we're going to do international theatrical releases and domestic release point. Prach is a better promoter than I am.
And also, you know, go to our website. It's one word, inthelifeofmusic.com, and it's going to have all the information on there, photo stills, screenings, dates, and everything like that. So go to the website, and also go to our In the Life of Music Facebook page. We don't purchase any ad space or anything like that, so whatever we have on there is generic. People like it because we're out there just promoting it. So go on there, hopefully right after this, go on there and like that. And then, but go onto our website, and when you see us around, just ask us. And we'll definitely give you guys, you know, updates and information. And just tell friends, so word of mouth is very important. And IMDb as well. But before we end this, I also want to thank the executive producers, because without them, you know, without the fundings, without the money to make this, it's very, very hard. And the cast and crew as well, of course.
Maybe one final question. Let's give it to you.
Hi. Thank you guys so much for this film. It was truly, truly stunning on so many levels. I did see that there was this really beautiful theme of, I think, labor, and you know, there was something that came out of this film for me in terms of like looking at community labor versus like the forced labor. And I saw this theme even in all three frames of like working together in different ways. Was that something that you guys intended, or was that something that just came out of this history and out of the piece in the end?
Yeah, that was something intended. I think there was a scene in chapter 1 where, you know, there's a lot of farmers in Cambodia, and there's, you know, still labor in Cambodia. There was a certain scene where they were doing kind of the same thing with rice, and, you know, I assume that's what you're talking about. And then, but they were wearing, you know, colorful clothing. You know, there was music and things like that that kind of represented like a choice, this laborer's choice. You know, it's what you do for a living. And then in chapter 2, when the labor comes back, everybody is in the same dreary color, and of course, you know, the sound changes with that too. But yes, I really wanted to, and I remember us writing in that scene. We're like, we need to show those two like working forces, even though, you know, they're both in the village. Like, what is the difference between, you know, farming in a village during pre-war versus during the killing fields? And, you know, we do a lot of those snapshots and comparisons between chapter 1 and especially chapter 2. You know, like the guy driving the cow. I mean, I could go on, you know, because directors, we have nuggets.
It was so cool. Like in chapters, I guess 1 and 3, there was like the community labor in chapter 1 with building the stage for the production for the concert, and then in chapter 3, the labor of, you know, having to push the car, and like, you know, within that family kind of unit, that community labor of having to rally resources in order to continue the journey. So I thought that was so amazing. Yeah.
Thank you.
If I can add about that, I don't know if you remember this, when we were having those conversations, gosh, how many years ago actually, we were talking about this sense of community, and you were educating me so much about Cambodian culture and history, and you wanted to talk about how community gets broken in that second chapter. Yeah, and then with Hope's journey, we get to see it healed, or healing, I think was more how we like to put it, that it was still healing.
Yeah.
I just wanted to...
Thank you. You answered that better than I did, I'm sorry.
Well, I think that to put a capper on this event and this this evening, I did want to make mention of the fact that this festival has been happening now for over 3 decades, and one of the really wonderful things about it is that we've been able to observe the growth and acculturation of different communities through this festival. We've seen works from Korean Americans, Filipino Americans. And the Vietnamese American folks, came up in a big way in the 90s and the 2000s with the Bowie brothers and Trinh, and Thai American makers as well. It kind of seems that with the infrastructure that's being built in Long Beach through initiatives such as the Cambodia Town Film Festival and Khmer Arts and other things, that Khmer American arts and cinema just coming on strong. And so I'd like to get a sense from you, how does this keep going? How does this thing keep building up so that Khmer American cinematic arts stands up in in a really good place vis-a-vis Japanese and Chinese Americans and Filipinos and stuff, and that one day although I don't know if this is like the right analogy, but that Khmer Americans will be able to produce their own Crazy Rich Asians or Joy and Love Club or whatever and stuff, and be competitive in a mainstream arena and not just stay in the niche. Where do you see the community going?
That's a good question, and we talk about that all the time, especially since me and Prach, we run the Cambodia Town Film Festival, and I think the idea right now is it's a very exciting time because there's a lot of new directors, new storytellers that are emerging in the Cambodian cinema, like Visal here, and then there's hopefully here in the U.S. that we continue to kind of keep us inspiring each other and pushing each other and telling each other that, hey, we can make these films, we will support these films. There's an audience for these films, and like you guys showing up tonight, to come see the film is like a step in the right direction. And the more voices and the more stories that we can tell on a Cambodian American level, I think the more will be made. The more we don't have to think about, hey, this movie isn't going to make money, or the more we don't limit ourselves to what we can and cannot do. I think that's a step in the right direction. So we're here, me and Prach, we're here to support as many filmmakers as we can, and hopefully push people to tell as many stories in different variations as we can. And you can tell this story is Cambodian American. It starts off with a Cambodian American voice, and then we wanted to bring it back to Cambodia and say, hey, what is the next film? And my next film will probably be something based in Long Beach. I don't know. I hope.
That's great and stuff. And just speaking to that point, that things just keep moving. I'm pretty aware that at least some of you know that there's like a big movie premiere at the Long Beach Art Theater on this Monday, if I'm not mistaken. And then of course the next edition in Cambodia Town is happening later on this year, and I know that you guys are planning it and what have you. I just really see, again, that Khmer American, arts and cinematic arts is just really, really coming up, and I think that that's, the next Asian Pacific American, community that we really have to, start paying attention to, because, you guys have arrived. And so I want to thank you, all for sharing in the life of music with us, and thank you so much again for this, premiere. Thank you guys so much for coming out and supporting Caylee.
Can I say something before we end this? I know that Yu-Ting over there is very silent, and she's one of the sound recording artists and the sound designer. And this film was tough in a lot of ways. And I remember when I approached her about doing this film, I was so worried because the sound that we recorded in Cambodia was so bad, and so Yu-Ting had to get on a plane and go back to Cambodia and work with Visal here to get all of this sound.
That's actually one of the most amazing journey. So like Frank said, basically they get me on the plane to Cambodia to recording ADR, basically the replacement dialogue. When I landed and I heard the movie totally changed. Then I met Visal and I meet everybody, all the actors in Cambodia. They actually bring me back to all the shooting locations, and I was so excited. It's like, great, I can get all the cow, all the trees, all the birds. It's nuts. It's construction there every day, and just like why here in the production sound. So it's been very challenging for me to kind of learn this culture. I never grew up in such a tropical area, so being there for 10 days, really learn the environment, from the city to the countryside, and reproduce to match the picture was an amazing journey. Thank you.
Caylee and her team will be able to receive you out in the big art Noguchi Plaza. There is another show that has been waiting to load in and what have you. Again, thank you so much, and I want to apologize on behalf of the team here for the for the technical difficulties. We finally got it straight. We showed the movie the way it was intended to be shown. So thank you guys for your patience. And again, congratulations.